Okay, dokie. Yeah, yeah, not focused. I haven't done it yet. Check, check, 1 2 1 2 1 2. Check, check, microphone. Check, check, 1 2. Okay. All right. Yep.
Good one. You need a mic check? You got a mic check? Mic check, mic check. That's good. Chief Craig. Mic check. Is everybody okay? Good enough? Do you have audio? 5 4 3 2 1. We're thinking you headquarters for a press conference with Chief Craig. It's about to release some video from shooting earlier today. Do they have me or no?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
Oh, no, I gotta call that. He's gonna call in. No, that's fine. Amy, can you just give her a mic check?
Well, I'm trying here. Do they not hear it or they hear it?
Yeah, you have it?
They do or no?
She has it.
She has it. Okay. Do we have like a mic stand, maybe, or we're just gonna go?
I don't have a mic check.
No mic stand. Okay.
You okay?
Facebook Live, so I have better audio.
Should be working, guys.
I don't think I have that Unity thing in my phone anymore.
Should be live.
Phone number or okay.
Let me do a test. Dan, let me see if we can, watch this, see if I can say something.
357.
Is it working all right? The Mobox? You want us in there?
Do a little sound check. It should be on.
Okay, 655.
Is that okay?
Mic check, 1 2. Mic check, 1 2. Yeah, that's good.
You good?
If the mayor's office leaves it here, we'll use it.
Right.
No, I just wanna make sure everything's okay. So, normally the next.
No, that wasn't like that.
Well, just tonight.
All right.
Just they had me filling in tonight, so it's like, okay, whatever. We were doing a piece on the.
All right, mic check, 1 2 3 4. Mic check, 1 2 3 4. Podium mic, 1 2 3 4. Everybody good? Everybody good? All right.
You wouldn't even know it's the pedal.
A lot of good memories there.
Oh, man.
So
Dan?
Yes.
So they won't be talking from the tables?
Right.
So do you
Right.
wanna have it?
Oh, but I did see her there. She was there with Jay-Z. She was there with Jay-Z, yeah. And they were smoking weed, cause I was like, oh my God, I gotta catch her vibe. But they were up in there smoking weed and it was sweet and they were, the smoke was coming straight up.
Who's this?
Beyonce and
Okay, testing,
Jay-Z.
1 2, test, 1 2 1 2.
I'm shocked to hear that.
Okay.
Did not see that coming.
Yeah, whole
Okay.
opening picture of him smoking, the smoke coming out of his mouth. I'm like, okay, I was about to get high. I was about to
I'm
get
sure
high.
you did.
I was about to get high, whether I want to or not. No, he didn't. Are you serious? Are you serious? Baby, I know you working overtime.
I am. YouTube?
Yep. I got off at 3 and got called back.
No, I have no doubt about that. Vicky.
Well, if you don't wanna use that,
We using that?
that's on you, that's just fine.
It's up to you guys. Yeah,
You good?
Dave may have wanted me 5 to 7.
Good.
So, what, do we have that? Do that.
Got the video. So you'll not train your channel? No, I was telling my buddy, Mike called it off, right? We gone and checked on something else. They're out there searching, and the rumor is, the guy didn't shoot first. Then they're gonna get that thing out fast. Then they should, within 30 seconds of me thinking that, there it is. Pin that down.
They want to show this at content, because now they can use a hard drive, and it has like the entire API for that.
Could you do me a favor, like, remove the audio track, you know what's gonna happen?
Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5. Scott Wolin, how you doing? It's Friday night.
It's not Friday night and we should be feeling all
Yeah.
right. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I've got lobster ready to cook. Like I made.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, how's that, Scott? Sound good?
Does it have to be that straight?
Okay.
Are you sure this is the other picture? This goes into your phone, this is it?
Mic check, let me know if you hear. Maybe Jesus through a mask.
Good.
Mic check 1 2. Yes.
Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2.
Okay, cool.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, do you see Scott now? 24. Perfect, thanks, dude.
Test 1 2. Test.
So what are you flying? Yes. And how about you? Well, I don't. He's the governor. One time he gave me the column, he said, "You were about 30,000 feet." And I could not hold it for him. I didn't have a feel for it. Yeah, can you hear me? It takes a lot, yeah. But can you hear me? You always liked, you always liked the, you like the fight, you always liked the, yes, me too, I, like my percent one with the flying club.
I can hear her, but I don't have her mic on, so.
Walk down the road.
Where my team? Oh, right there. Got- Where's the commander from Major Crimes? We all set? Good evening. First of all, let me thank all of you for being here on such a short notice. Certainly this has been a tragedy when we think about a life being lost, and certainly my heart prayers go out to the family of the suspect who was shot by Detroit police. But I also want to say that I want to acknowledge just the phenomenal work of the men and women of our homicide team, our professional standards section, who worked so hard, so quickly, so that we can get this information out. As you've heard me say, we've done this many times, not just here at my time as chief in Detroit and other cities, and I know of no other time where we were able to get out information. Clearly, as you now know, following my initial early remarks, there was erroneous information being put out in social media, and I was very concerned that the information being put out was inciting violence. And as many of you know, a group gathered at the scene of where the shooting took place. Rocks, bottles, in some instances a water cooler were hurled at the officers, so it became very violent. And so I knew how important it was to get this out to the viewing and listening community. So I'm going to go through the facts as we know it right now. Again, I stressed it, we're still very early in this investigation, but we have enough to move forward. So again, at 12:35 this afternoon, units from the 12th Precinct and Gang Intelligence arrested a Darnell Sylvester on an active federal DEA arrest warrant for drug distribution. Mr. Sylvester was being arrested without resistance. And when we go through the videos, I will point out Mr. Sylvester and certainly Mr. Littleton, who is the suspect who was fatally shot. A second individual, Hakeem Littleton, was not being arrested, but was present as well, and you'll see that in the video. As officers were taking Mr. Sylvester into custody, Mr. Littleton began to reach in his left cargo pants pocket. Again, as we play the video several times, you will see that. A witness at the scene told investigators that Mr. Littleton stated, and I'm not going to say it in the exact verbiage, but basically that you're not going to take my man. In other words, the interpretation is take him into custody. He then drew a handgun from his left pocket. Mr. Littleton then fired a shot at one of our police officers at close range, narrowly missing him. Now, when you see the video, I would estimate that the suspect was probably 2, at most 3 feet from the officer. You also see that as Mr. Littleton raised the gun in his left hand, he was pointing directly at the head of the officer. At this junction, we believe that 3 officers returned fire, and you will see that in the video. Mr. Littleton continued firing his weapon even as he was on the ground. Officers have recovered 4 casings at the scene consistent with the weapon possessed by Mr. Littleton. So I want to show you the weapon that he was armed with, because you won't be able to see this in the video. This is a .25 caliber blue steel semi-automatic pistol. Again, this investigation is in its early stages, but this information has come directly from body-worn cameras of some of the involved officers, as well as an in-dash camera from our DPD scouts. Now, I will play 3 videos. Now, I think what's remarkable as we go through, and we'll stop so that there's clarity, but 8 shots fired in 5 seconds. 8 shots fired in 5 seconds. 4 fired by 3 officers. 1 officer fired 2 shots. 1 officer fired 1 shot, and another fired 1 single shot. And then 4 shots fired by the suspect. So again, we're going to run the first video, which is a dash cam video. The second video is from, again, body-worn camera. And because of the speed of the video, we think it's critically important that we then, this same body-worn camera video, we're going to play that in what we call slow motion, so that you can, it's not as clear as a normal speed, but you will be able to see what I'm describing. So with that, we can play video 1. So stop here for a moment. So what you see here, police cars coming up on the scene. There were a total of 4 scouts in the area. Police officers getting up. The gentleman wearing the white T-shirt was the focus of their investigation. He was the individual being arrested. Okay, you can start it again. Puts his hands up. He doesn't offer any resistance. Now stop right here. He's on his knees. The individual in the orange T-shirt standing very close to where his associate is Mr. Littleton. Okay, you can roll it again. Yep. Can we back up? Because it came up a little quicker. So at some point, you just back up to the point where I described he reached. So he's got his hands up. He reaches in his left pocket. As you can see, he's leaning down. He right at this point pulls out a gun and he fires directly at the officer. We believe, based on our investigation, at that point he fired 2 shots in quick succession. This officer is a hero. Even though he was being fired upon, he did not have his gun out at that time, and he pursued this individual. And if you could roll the tape. He goes and holds him down. We believe as he was going to the ground, the suspect, Mr. Littleton, fired 2 additional shots. In our investigation, we have recovered, again, 4 spent casings. The first 2, where you saw him in an upright position, there were 2 casings found in close proximity. And then at the point where he's gone down because the officer pursued him, was trying to stop him or stop the threat, 2 additional shots were fired. And that's when the other officers fired shots. So this is the view again from inside of a police vehicle. Let's go to video 2. And again, video 2, is it, can we, was that video 2? No, this is the slow, no, video 2, not the slow-mo. Video 2 at the normal speed. Start. Okay, this is, now this is in a regular speed. You can see where, can we play this video one more time because I want.
You want the first video at regular speed?
No, video 2 in the regular speed. You think that would help some?
Yeah, we'd like to
Okay.
see it in its entirety, Chief, if you don't mind.
This is the beginning.
Yeah, from the beginning.
Hmm? I know, I didn't.
The next one's the slow motion, Chief.
Okay, can we play this? This is the same body-worn camera video, just in slow motion. Slow motion. Stop right there. So at this point, this is where he reached out and pulled the Blue Steel semi-automatic pistol out of his pocket. Okay, continue. He raises his left hand, stop, 1 shot. You can see the smoke coming from the muzzle. Continue. Second shot, the officer, as he runs away, is trying to gain control. 2 shots are fired at some point while he's still in a semi, not upright, and that's where we found the 2 additional casings. Would anyone like to see that video one more time? Would that be helpful?
Can you see the whole thing off the top, Chief?
And just run through it?
Yeah,
Okay.
just let it run clear through.
Okay, let's just go through.
Will you turn the lights off? The lights be turned on?
You know, I'm not. So at this point, as he's going down, he is still actively firing his weapon. And this is when the additional officers engaged him. But I just want to make note, as you can see in the video, that the officer who was initially fired upon showed tremendous courage in pursuing an armed suspect who clearly fired 2 shots in his direction. And it's simply a miracle that he wasn't struck in the head. We don't know how close, because he was aiming the pistol. As you can see, once he raised his arm, could just stop the vehicle right there. And you can see the officer 2 to 3 feet away, aimed directly at his head, but a miracle he wasn't struck by gunfire. We believe he may have been hit at this time again. A total of 4 shots were fired by officers, a total of 4 shots fired by the suspect.
Hey, Chief, what was the breakdown on those firings? 3 were fired by 1, I remember you said.
Yes. So 4 shots were fired by 3 officers. 1 officer fired 1 shot, another officer fired 1 shot, and then the 3rd officer fired 2 shots.
Chief, can you say how many times the suspect was actually hit?
I'm not certain, unless, do we know? I think it was 4. Yeah, he was struck 4 times. Again, his shots did not take effect. Can we turn the lights back on, please?
He said it was a
Can you
25
say where he was
caliber.
shot?
I think he may have sustained at least 1 headshot, the suspect, yeah.
And that was a 25?
A 25 semi-automatic Beretta. When I reported out earlier, I said a 22, I believe, based on information, that it was a 22.
Anything to say, Chief, about, you said earlier that people are putting out false information that you think is leading to,
Well, it was clear during the early phases of this investigation, once protesters got on scene, there was significant agitation. Then suddenly there were other individuals that were converging on the location who were equally angry, and one of the things that they kept repeating was what they got off of social media platform and what they were hearing. In fact, some of it ranges from he was unarmed. There was a report that he was unarmed, seated on the porch, and basically, in my words, not necessarily theirs, he was executed. Clearly, when you look at the video and what we know in the investigation, that was not true. And so it was so important for us to get this information out as soon as we can. This is unprecedented for the investigators to get it done. And again, the investigation is still going. But to be able to get the body-worn in-car dash within hours of this investigation. We talked about the miracle relative to this officer. And I had a chance to talk to him later, and he's clearly, as you would imagine, shaken up. But it's a miracle that we were able to get this together so quickly.
Was this a fugitive apprehension team or?
No, it was not. This was, as I reported earlier, there was a mass shooting, if you will, on July 5th morning at a big block party where 8 people were shot, 3 died. Officers from the 12th Precinct and the Gang Intelligence Unit were there engaging in surveillance. They knew about this target that they went to arrest. They saw him, and as depicted in the video, he offered no resistance. In fact, he was taken into custody without incident.
Chief, can you talk about the impact of erroneous information, that he didn't have a gun, didn't fire on the cops, the police executed him, and what that does to, incite violence? And
Well, it does incite violence, and I was deeply concerned over the erroneous information. I know we're in a very difficult time, not just here but across this country, and I've asked repeatedly that, you know, give us a chance. I know that the officer-involved shooting incidents that we've been involved here, the city has treated me and the department well. They trust this department. We give information as quickly as we can. In fact, this investigation was probably not even an hour old when I arrived at scene, was briefed on what took place, and I wanted to get the information out as quickly as I could. I run a risk? Absolutely. Because I know as investigations progress, facts sometimes change, and I was concerned about that. And so that's why it's always so important to get the facts right the first time, and I have to make adjustments, then I'll do that. But I think that has gone a long way in building trust in this community. And so when we say it happened a certain way, most people tend to believe that. Certainly there was an individual leading the protests who had another agenda. There was someone who was putting out false information, and it did have an impact on inciting what mostly has been peaceful protesters.
Well, Chief, I actually saw one report that said the suspect was shot 15 to 20 times, which certainly.
I'm glad you brought that up. That was another erroneous report that was put out. That didn't happen, as you saw in the video. Again, 8 shots in 5 seconds. 8 shots in 5 seconds, 4 by 3 police officers and 4 by the suspect, Mr. Littleton.
Chief, can you talk about the agenda that this person that you were referencing and what your concern is with that agenda, if you have one?
Well, it's clear that without facts, you make a statement that gets people upset, they're angry, and that's why it's so important as law enforcement that we set the record straight as soon as we possibly can. But we need to do a proper and thorough investigation. And it's not always as simple. Thank God for body-worn cameras and dash cams, because then it's me telling the story based on the investigation, and so it's difficult. I mean, I looked at one early video, and this is when I got concerned, where someone was narrating on Facebook Live and was literally saying, we ought to go out and kill some cops because they just killed this man and he was unarmed, something to that effect. So he was really trying to incite. Now, I will tell you, there were some at the protest scene that talked to a couple of the command staff that was there, and it was during that time that some said, well, that's what you said and that's how it happened. I'm leaving this. So that was very encouraging. I am told, I had not had a conversation with the family, but I know that a command officer did have a conversation, explained to the family or a member of the family what had transpired, and the family, of course, was saddened by the shooting, but certainly respected the fact that someone told them what happened, and they weren't part of the inciting. Clearly, and then you have folks who I've said before, many of them come from outside the city of Detroit, and people in the city of Detroit are tired. You know, we're the police department for the people who live and work here, and they respect the job that we're doing. And when we make a mistake, they understand one thing. We own it, we're transparent about it, and we do what we need to do so that there's not a reoccurrence. Anytime an officer has to use deadly force, it's very serious. We know it, and the officers know it.
Chief, given that you're releasing this video, do you still fear that there will be agitators who will refute this and say that this is Detroit's George Floyd and try to push it?
I don't think so. I won't even buy that. I really believe that, you know, most Detroiters, and certainly if this department, you know, did something wrong, I think they have enough trust in this chief, this executive team, that we're going to do a thorough, unbiased investigation. We run a risk when we put information out like this early, But, you know, it's the city. We have to manage. And so we understand that putting out information sooner than later is proper. You know, if you think about what happened in Chicago with the tragic shooting of Jaquan McDonald, it took a year. I mean, how do you build trust? And the mayor supports this. You know, we're in constant communication. He understands. And so he understands the necessity to get this information out and get it out timely. Some of my staff would tell you if I could have gotten it out an hour ago, 2 hours ago even, but I wanted to make sure that what we put out was something that your viewers, your listeners could grasp and not just rely on me standing there talking. But again, within an hour of investigation, I essentially said what happened, and the video shows that.
Did
Yes.
the mayor
Would you
give you
mind
any
showing
advice?
the-
The mayor, did he give you any advice?
We talk all the time, so
I mean, in terms of this incident tonight.
we talk, we converse, we bounce things off each other. The mayor trusts me to make decisions, and if I make a bad decision, it's my decision. But the mayor trusts the decision making.
So he was fully watching things as they transpired.
We've been talking. I've called the president of the police commission within that first hour to advise Mr. Bell of the events. He appreciated it. I said it's very early in the investigation. And just like when I briefed the mayor, this is what I know now. We know these things evolve and things change. And while you see the video, we may get additional information in the next 24 hours. I mean, the video's not going to change. But there may be some facts that we.
Can we see the video again? Would you mind just showing it?
Yeah, we'll do it one more time and I'll shut it down from there.
Right, and just to let it go in real time.
Okay,
so that
we'll let,
folks who are calling
remember
can
there are
see.
3 video clips,
But no, it's
and,
fine.
and I will shut it down after that.
So just
Yeah,
real
please
quick,
play it off the top
were
through.
were either of these individuals the one?
Can you
who
let them,
interrupted
can you
or-
let them look at the video, please, just so they can.
Do that at the end. Can we do that?
Can you turn the lights down too, so we can get a better shot of this?
Can you start it from the beginning? Is everybody ready? I want to take note, at some point you see what appears to be the officer kicking something that was the suspect's gun. That's, when you saw the kicking motion, he was actually kicking the gun away from the reach of Mr. Littleton. Can we turn the lights out? I'll take a few more questions.
Can you talk about the officer who was fired at? I mean, he kept advancing and actually made what would have been an arrest had the suspect not expired. So the question is the quality of the police work that the officer was fired at.
This officer is a hero. He is what I describe as an American hero. Despite being fired upon, and you saw it with your own eyes, he continued to advance. He didn't even have time to take his weapon out. He advanced. He wanted to secure, by putting his own life in jeopardy, he was trying to secure this suspect and minimize the threat.
And were either, he fires twice, another officer fires once, another officer fires once. 4 times, he said, Mr. Littleton has said 4 times, not the 10 or 15 that was out there in the press.
I just said to you, not even a few minutes ago, that the rumor that was circulating on social media platform, I don't know which one, that was erroneous. We don't know where folks are getting that information. Yes, and I want to honor your question.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
So just either of these two individuals, Mr. Littleton or the man who was arrested, do either of them, to your knowledge, have any connection to the July 5th shooting?
We don't know that.
Okay.
We know that where the shooting took place, it was a large-scale block party. We do know that there was a local gang involved. We know, based on our intelligence, that both Mr. Littleton and Sylvester had ties to a local street gang. But we were there today to make an arrest of a person who had an outstanding active felony warrant for drugs. And again, he never resisted. He was taken into custody without incident, as you saw.
Okay, and just a little bit more about Mr. Littleton, his full name, age, just sort of that.
I don't have that information.
Okay, but his first name is Hakeem?
Hakeem, yes.
Does he have a criminal record? He seemed pretty desperate to shoot.
He does have a criminal history. He was on active probation, if my memory serves me.
That's correct, for unarmed robbery.
Active probation. It was unarmed robbery and a weapons charge. And I think he was set to go off probation in the year 2021.
And he's 20 years old? 19 years old?
20 years old.
20.
20, okay, thank you.
Chief, can you talk at all about the atmosphere that your officers are operating in, and how quickly things can change on them, and how much more difficult the job is today than it was even 6
Well,
months
as I've said, certainly policing today is a challenge. I am proud of the men and women who go out each and every day. We certainly have been managing protests now since late May, and at different times throughout the protests, the officers took a barrage of insults, had objects thrown, they were attacked, and so really just the professional decorum. And again, it's been a tough time, but I think what's so different here in the city of Detroit, our police officers, and I know that by and large the Detroit community supports this department. They support us. I know I've had numerous conversations with community members all of the time, not just from Detroit, but in the metro area. I know Deputy Chief Todd Bettison, who spends a substantial amount of time in the community. We talked about our local activists who have supported us. I met with a group of activists 2 days ago to talk about issues that we could work on together. It was not a hostile meeting. It was a very productive meeting, in fact. The fact that we have a drifting community here that has supported us. And so this is called relationship building. We don't start building relationships when something goes wrong. This is part of the fabric of the Detroit Police Department. Critically, critically important.
Now that young man, the gentleman who was shot, did the officers either know or suspect that he might have been armed and dangerous?
They didn't know anything about, well, let me back up. When Mr. Littleton was approaching, the officers got information. Apparently, he was walking in the opposite direction. He observed that his friend or associate was being detained and arrested. That is when he turns around and walks in the direction of the officers. He didn't try to flee. He walked in the direction of the officers. So he was clearly, some comments were made that he was angry, as I indicated in my initial briefing, about his friend being arrested. And without hesitation, he removed a handgun from his left pants pocket.
Are you going to release this video in its entirety to the public, or provide it to us to provide to the public? Because I think people would just like to see it.
Well, we're releasing it now. This is the video we're releasing, and I want to just truly advise you that we're very early in this investigation. And so, so I just ask that you be somewhat patient, and but we'll get you whatever you need. This is about transparency, and this is how we conduct our business each and every time.
And Chief, in terms of the protest itself, with the anything you
There-
want to share about that?
There were 8, last count, there were 8 arrested early on when the violence started. And again, I want to stress, you use the word engage. The violent core of the protesters present engaged the officers. They began to hurl projectiles. I indicated brick. In one instance, a cooler, rocks. I was told bottles. So there was engagement on the part of the core group that were angry and agitated.
And did you give the order for the officers to use the tear gas?
You know, I talked to the commander who's on scene. He made the right decision. It was a very active, violent situation. He was met with tremendous resistance. And in my judgment, based on what I know about the investigation, he did the right thing. Normally, when we talk about deployment of gas, it's usually when a group is stable and they might be hurling, but this got violent very quickly, the way it was described to me. And he had to make a decision. He's a commander, and I support his decision, unless some other facts bear out, but clearly they were under attack. In fact, that commander sustained an injury while out trying to talk with the group. He was trying to reassure them because at some point, some of the other erroneous information that was being put out was that I was being untruthful and that this gentleman did not possess a firearm.
Can you talk about the injuries sustained by the commander?
It's a minor injury, at least what he explained to me, but I haven't gotten a follow-up yet.
So your overall assessment, I mean, this could have really turned a little bit ugly, but it could have been a lot worse.
Well, you know, it's hard to make an assessment. I mean, I don't want to, this wasn't good. We would have hoped, and again, this is why this knee-jerk reaction, snap reaction to not knowing facts is a problem. And then when the people that are projecting and putting out erroneous information is only for one cause and one cause only, is to incite others. I mean, I don't know of any other reason. I'll take one more question.
Chief, the people who allegedly incite, who put erroneous information out, you said he had another agenda, which leads me to believe you think it was deliberate. Is there not some penalty for that? I mean, is that not against the law?
I don't want to go into if there's a penalty, but I can just tell you what other reason why a person would put out information that doesn't support what really happened. In fact, we know that there was no one there that had the information that I had. I was very close to the investigation. You know, Commander Decker, who oversees the homicide, and certainly Director Gravelin, who oversees professional standards. These are folks I rely on getting accurate and timely information.